Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special Zoom, which happens to be on our regular Zoom time. We today are releasing the official release date of Tritium. Woohoo! Now, this has been a huge achievement for the team, considering the bear market, considering everything else. I mean, we've been essentially straddling two different code bases for a number of years, trying to keep one secure while the other one is constantly changing. To let everybody know what really is in Tritium, it is a complete ground up build. So essentially everything in the legacy code is completely gone, minus a few of the legacy rules. There's a completely new block structure called the Tritium block. We index everything differently. That's why your wallet actually loads instantly now if you're running Tritium in legacy mode. There's smart contracts, there's assets, there's sigchains, there's logins, there's essentially ability to decouple your keys from your account. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And this is just the beginning. That's the cool thing, is this has been a lot of foundational work getting it to the level where we're at, because we have, right now, physical lines of source code, excluding comments and excluding all like blank spaces and everything, is 92,000 lines of physical source code. A lot of this was built from the ground up. So it's a lot of source code, especially considering that it has to be bug-free. It's a critical system, so if there's any critical system failures, a lot of bad things happen. So it's been quite a feat, but we're glad that it is actually fully complete now. It's been complete as far as feature-wise since about June, but we've been doing extensive testing and debugging and everything since then, getting all the systems together. The last few test nets have been going really well. The current one right now, we're just beating it up as much as we can. I mean, Paul and me are both like trying to attack the network with double spend attacks and, doing conflicted transaction stuff, and, spare you all the details, but it's been very stable under the circumstances, which is good. So just a little bit more optimization and stuff like that. So I guess without further ado, I shall announce the release date. You know how we like to choose special days for special things to happen? Well, remember the 5th of November, because that is the day that Tritium is going to be released. I think we had a nice, slogan? Paul said it, but remember the 5th of November, the day Nexus changed the distributed ledger. I don't know if we'll still with it. If you guys like that, we can go with that. We'll put it in a tweet and everything. Then the Tritium protocol itself will be activating on the 11th of November. As you guys know, 11/11 is another significant date. A lot of people say, make a wish, 11/11. Interesting history lesson, the Treaty of Versailles, which actually ended World War I, was signed on 11/11 at 11:11 a.m. and 11 seconds. That's what say the 11th hour. So there's a lot of importance to that number. We'll spare you all the details for that, but it seems like the perfect timing, especially considering the code finally matured in runway to that time. So you guys know, so that you hopefully have a little bit more faith in our deadline that we've set this time. It is complete. So we are going to, over the next 2 weeks, be continuing the public testnet, which I believe the 5th of November is Tuesday, 3 weeks from now. So, we have 2 weeks and 6 days. So we're going to be doing extensive testing and optimizing and, final polishing for the next couple weeks. And then we are going to completely be done with any sort of code commit. So this way we also have a good 3-week runway up to the 5th of November that we can start doing some marketing. We can get some press releases out. We have interviews. I have an interview from the crypto show that's coming out, and I think CryptoLark will probably want to do some interviews. Paul wanted to start writing some content. We want to start really helping people understand what you can be doing with the Tritium protocol and what it means for you, why the architecture of it is significant, how it's going to make smart contracts simple for people, how you can use it in your everyday life. And maybe we can go over some of that a little bit today. It's a Monday. Thank you, Ozarkon. Ozkarman? Okay. These online names are ridiculously hard to pronounce sometimes. But it's a Monday. So 2 weeks and 5 days. So that last week up to that Monday, this would be October 31st, we're going to have the binaries ready to pack and release. Which means we're going to ensure that the release date is met, because everything is going to be packed and ready to ship by the end of the month, which means that the upgrade process will just constitute you downloading the wallet, and you actually get a really cool countdown timer inside the wallet, because the wallet right now is supporting legacy mode, but there's a whole other Tritium mode. For those of you that have been using the testnet, you are pretty up to par on that. Essentially, your wallet is going to switch over on the interface into Tritium mode and allow you to create your first SIG chain and log in, and then you can migrate your trust key over and you can start staking and all that good stuff. So it has been an exciting process, and it's taken an incredible amount of time. We've put a lot of dedication and love into this, passion, because that's pretty much some of the only things that can drive you with the way things have been. But I'm happy to say that it's complete, and it's ready to pack and ship and ready for release. So make sure you remember the 5th of November, and we shall have the activation time be on 11/11, as we stated, at about 11:11 a.m. if we want to do that, depending on how we decide to orient that. So that is when everything is going to be happening, which is great. So if there's any suggestions from the community, or if we want to open up some more discussion about some different marketing pushes, we're all going to want to rally together over this next 3 weeks. This is our time to shine. We've all been waiting a really long time, including us developers, to have this done. So now it's time to get that pushed out there. And I mean, if you want to start joining the testnet and getting kind of privy with working with the code, you know, if you're a developer or you're just a simple web developer, or you're even somebody that's just a regular user, to start learning. I know we've had some people writing, you know, articles on how do you create a token. We could have different things on, you know, how do you create your business on Nexus? How do I load my business up? How do I tokenize my business? How do I do a fundraising? How do I load my art up? How do I transfer it? How do I create supply chains? I mean, there's so many different faucets. I mean, how do you go and enter into a decentralized exchange? How do you work with smart contracts? Like, one of the basic smart contracts that we have functioning by default is transaction expirations, which means that after a period of time, which the default is 1 day, the transaction will expire, so that if nobody claims it within that day, then you're able to credit it back to yourself. And that's a really important feature, because if there's anything that goes to an invalid address, or somebody ends up losing access to a SIG chain and you send them a bunch of money, you can reverse that transaction back to yourself after that expiration time. That also goes for any sort of split dividend payments. If not all of that split dividend is actually paid out, then the sender can actually claim some of that back to themselves. So that's a very basic smart contract that we have in the core protocol right now. And we're obviously going to be expanding it. The Tritium that we're releasing right now, as far as the mainnet activation, all the consensus critical rules, is capable of much, much, much more than we are giving you insight into. What I mean by that is the API is still pretty small as far as the functionality on it compared to the functionality of Tritium. So post Tritium, we're going to continue to be developing, obviously, but you're going to be seeing a lot more API development happening, which means you're going to get a lot of really cool new features, such as asset builders, object builders, XML assets. Paul can go into that because he's mainly been responsible for driving a lot of the API development. And then we're going to be moving to a post-Tritium hard fork called Tritium++. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that. Tritium++ is going to be unlocking the DAO, which is going to essentially be making trust keys able to vote on the democratic process dealing with the ambassador keys. And that includes 2 trust voting groups, one for the ambassador group and one for the actual trust voting group from Trust Keys. We can go into the details on that later. That is considered a global DAO. But another cool feature that we're going to be developing as well for Tritium++ is what are called token DAOs, or small sub DAOs, whatever we decide to name it. And those essentially will allow your tokenized company to not only allow you to receive dividends if you're an investor, but also to have voting rights into the actions of that. So these tokens essentially are going to become small DAOs, so that when you start developing and you launch your company by creating an asset, then you tokenize the asset. The token itself can also form a DAO, which allows you to democratically and decentralized manage these types of companies. So it can also be for art and other things like that. And then the last one that we're going to be doing is kind of a smart contracts phase 2. We're going to be putting in new smart contract features that we're calling Invoke, which essentially is, for the programmers out there, allows you to create a method inside of the object. Because essentially Tritium is, in a difficult way to say, I guess, older languages are called procedural languages, which means they generally deal in a specific module and the code is executed in a procedural fashion. More modern languages that handle larger projects are called object-oriented languages. So think of Ethereum as more of a procedural language. Tritium is an object-oriented language. Essentially, your registers and your objects and your assets and all of that are different objects that are actually programmable objects. And then within that, we're going to add things that are called methods, which are essentially what are inside of a class in, let's say, an object-oriented programming language like C++, that allows you to have specific computation be done on that, but a verified computation, such as I want to reduce the quantity of this specific item by a factor of 1. You do op invoke to that specific method, and the computation is going to be done on the network so that everybody can verify that computation. So that's going to be another one of the really important features that's going to be expanding a lot of the smart contract functionality out, making it a lot more powerful than some of the languages that exist right now, but also being non-Turing complete. So we don't have loops for a good reason, because we don't want the iterations to be sucking cycles out of every single computer. But on the other side of it, the virtual machine itself is incredibly fast, 40 to 80 million instructions per second. So we're really right now, everything is so fast that I guess our bottleneck is a disk and bandwidth. Those are our big bottlenecks as far as scaling right now. The software itself handles it, but your disk throughput, which means how quickly you can actually write data to your hard drive, and how much bandwidth you have on your internet connection are essentially our two big bottlenecks. But this is good, because you want your bottlenecks to be the actual physical hardware, not software. Because if the software itself becomes a bottleneck when the hardware isn't, you create bigger problems than you solve. So essentially, it's extremely efficient. Our contract processing ranges anywhere from 3,000 to 25,000 contracts per second. We measure our throughput in contracts per second, since each transaction can have multiple contracts. This does not mean a capacity of 20 or 30,000 transactions a second. This means the processing time. So if you have a block with 30,000 transactions in it, or 30,000 contracts, it will process anywhere from 1 to 5 seconds for that block itself to process. But our block time is 50 seconds, so there's plenty of extra availability in there. And the capacity that we are releasing Tritium with also is 655 transactions per second is going to be the maximum capacity, plus or minus some, depending on how much space we allocate for checkpoints, which is for hybrid mode, which each contract itself, or each transaction, can have up to 100 contracts, which means the theoretical capacity of Tritium is about 65,000 contracts per second. We most likely won't be seeing those types of numbers. And if we are seeing those types of numbers, blocks are going to process extremely slow, and syncing is going to go extremely slow. So don't go quoting around and saying, oh, Nexus is doing 60,000 transactions a second or contracts per second, because it's capable of doing that. But we want to just advertise essentially our processing times and the speed in which it processes and our maximum capacity. I'm assuming we're probably going to stay at a pretty low number of transactions per second for a while, but the capacity for on-chain scaling is there based on the efficiency of the software and the architecture, which sets us up for Amin, because when we get to Amin and we have the different Amin shards, you're going to be basically multiplying that number. So we're presuming, I think a fair number to say is anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 transactions or contracts per second, I think is going to be a good capacity to be operating at. Obviously, we're not going to need that anytime soon. And then, you just multiply that by how many shards you have, and essentially that's your scaling. So I guess, is there anything that you want to add as far as the API is concerned, Paul?
No, I think you covered the point there that post mainnet release, we're going to be continuing to develop the API. We're still going to be adding features to it that can be done without us needing to fork. Here it's just adding new features, and it won't really matter if people are on an older version of the wallet and an older version of the core. They just won't have those features available. So that's coming. I think probably the only thing I wanted to add is what to expect from us in the next 2 weeks. I think we're going to continue with Testnet. As you know, we've had some really good participation and really good feedback from people who have been helping us with the testnet so far. I'd like that to continue. We only released testnet 21 this week. We've been beating it up pretty well, but there's been a few of the other participants who have raised some issues with us on previous testnets, and I'd like them to get back on it. Primavera is one of those who's done a really good job for us and raised one of the biggest issues, actually, which was around being able to generate signature chains at will without any cost involved and being able to flood the network, which is something we fixed last week. So yeah, we'd like participation to continue in the testnet over the next 2 weeks and keep giving us your feedback. In parallel to that, the wallet GUI guys are still going to be releasing updated versions of the wallet. That's still going through a polishing phase. Please provide feedback to them on what you think of the Tritium GUI. That they will continue to release little updates for that over the next couple of weeks. I think we're calling it an alpha at the moment, but we'll move to beta probably the end of this week and have a week or so of beta before we release that finally on the 5th. But even after the 5th, the wallet guys can continue to release updates with little polishing features, or even just entirely new features if they want. It's not going to affect the network in any way because the GUI is completely decoupled from the API from now. So yeah, that's basically it. Please continue helping us with testing and anything you can do to help us promote the release date and move Nexus forward over the next 3 weeks until we release it.
Yeah, and I have quite a few interviews I think that have been lined up by some people in the community. So keep reaching out to people if you want us to go on any interviews. Paul, me, some of the business dev guys. I think the next 3 weeks is going to be really important for all of us to kind of pull together and promote as much as we possibly can, whether on social media, whether we get more exposure to different interviews. I know Naomi Brockwell, I've interviewed with her. I might reach out to her. We've got an interview coming out for the crypto show. I think Teddy, what was it? Teddy Crypto, something like that, had another interview. So anything you guys can get, any ideas that you guys have, always pass them towards us. If you have any suggestions about how we can get greater outreach. I'm hoping to see a lot more organic growth as more people start to use the protocol and find it useful in their lives. And also the development of new use cases, which some of them are already undergoing right now as far as, and I'll be announcing some of those that I'm actually developing with the Tritium protocol as we speak, dealing mainly with supply chains, but there's a lot of really, really cool features that we've actually been able to start to develop with this. So any ideas that you guys have or any suggestions or any way that we can all kind of work together to bring this to fruition, now is the time. So yeah, I mean, I'm really, really happy that everybody's stuck with us through all this. And I appreciate the support. I appreciate you guys believing in this crazy vision that we've had for a long time, and finally seeing this come to life. So I think it's a beautiful thing. And I just wanted to send my appreciation to everybody in the community. Without you guys, we wouldn't have been able to do this. So. All right. Well, does anybody have any questions or comments? You guys can speak freely if you want to unmute. Thanks, guys. Love you, Mike Casey.
It's a good question. Good point about language translation on the website. Where are we at with that? Don't suppose we've.
Well, so we have some content. I think we're putting together some translation teams. As far as translations on the website, no, we haven't put much effort into that. We've been working on finalizing it. But if anybody is fluent in different languages that would like to help, we can offer some bounties that way. I guess we'll put together some bounty programs. We have the translations channel in Slack. If you guys want to join in, I think definitely it is a good idea to include multiple languages, as many as we can on the website. Now that we have a nice, clean new website, it's going to be a lot easier to do that than with the old website. What's the solution? I think Ozcartman. I think Ozcartman. Okay, let's send a direct message. Cool. Well, thanks, Ozcartman. Anything else? No?
No, I've got nothing at this point. Just getting back to testing and breaking and exchanges. Yeah, good one, Mike. Thanks for that question. So I'm going to be talking to Binance. In fact, one of us will be talking to Binance and Bittrex fairly soon, actually, now that we know a release date, just so that we can get them to carve out some time with their developers during that week, because they're going to have from the 5th to the 11th to update. If they want to stay online, obviously. So if we can just get them ahead of time, knowing that it's coming, and we've already done this. The Binance especially, they know that this is coming, and they said, look, when you know a release date, just let us know so we can get our devs time allotted. So they know that's coming. So this shouldn't be an issue to get them upgraded during that week.
It's usually about 1 day to get an exchange upgraded, but since all of them are running Tritium Core already, they don't have to resync or reindex, and we already got them all upgraded to Tritium a number of months ago. So all exchanges have been running the actual Tritium protocol, obviously in legacy mode. So yeah, it should be, I say, a 5 or 10 minute upgrade. And we've designed everything to be seamless as far as register addresses. So you can send to and from UTXO or Tritium SIG chains. They're interoperable with one another. You'll notice though Tritium addresses start with a number 8, where legacy addresses start with the number 2. So you're going to be able to tell from the actual address where it was sent to or what type of account it is. So we have this. Hey, what's up, Nazca? Good to see you, man. But anyway, so we have it so that they're actually the same base 58 hex or format that the legacy addresses use, so that there's actually no changes that they're going to have to make in their exchange system to be able to monitor deposits. List transactions shows up all of the Tritium transactions as well. So we're assuming they're going to mainly be operating with UTXO for the foreseeable future until eventually we get to upgrading them into Tritium SIG chains. We also have direct connection with the people in Upbit through their Slack channel too, so we will get them upgraded. I think they're still running an old 256 daemon, so we'll get them upgraded. Yep, I just talked with them the other day. Yep. So standard procedure. We've had exchanges do this a lot. This is actually our 7th activation, so it's not our first rodeo. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting switch though, because people are going to have to actually generate SIG chains right at the activation timestamp. So we shall see. We have it so that it should be extremely smooth for anybody to upgrade, essentially with auto create, auto login. Once that timestamp hits, then they're going to just automatically create SIG chains. They're going to go out to the network and they'll be able to start mining. So there should be very few disruptions. It'll take more manual action for you to continue staking, because you're going to have to click the migrate button. So if you want to continue staking, just keep your eye on your wallet. You'll have a nice little countdown timer, and there's some cool stuff in there. And I think there was some requests for video tutorials. So I think if anybody has any interest in doing that, or Kendall, or anybody wants to start making some tutorials, I think the next few weeks is going to be good for that, so people can understand how to upgrade to Tritium and how to migrate their proof of stake over and everything like that.
Mike's just asked the question, can you run both in the same wallet? Yes, you can, is the answer. The new wallet GUI, which I assume you haven't looked at yet, Mike, it has both modes, a legacy mode and a Tritium mode. And you can switch between the two, and the legacy mode looks like it does today, and the Tritium mode is the SIG chain and the SIG chain accounts, and you can grab an address from one and send to the other, and vice versa. You can just keep switching between the two. Yep. So yes, we support both, and we'll continue to do so until we drop support for the UTXO model entirely, which probably be in Armin, although we haven't made a call on that yet.
Hopefully. I mean, the way that Amin is going to work, it's going to be a lot more difficult to utilize UTXO, especially in that architecture as well. So most likely we will be deprecating it in Amin, which means everybody will need to have their coins migrated over. And if you don't, then those UTXOs will be unspendable. But what we're going to also do, which is going to be really cool, is Tritium, the very first Tritium block that is ever mined, is going to become our new Genesis block, because we're going to truncate the chain when it comes to Amin, so that we can essentially forget all of the legacy specific code, and we can drop that code directly out of our repository, and we can drop that 7 gigabytes of extra disk storage and synchronization time that you'll have. So essentially, Tritium is kind of like a live upgrade, completely new blockchain. It would be as if you took Bitcoin and upgraded Bitcoin into the Tritium protocol, which you can actually do. We have created the support for all of that. One of the reasons that we didn't just do a coin swap on an exchange, and we've gone the extra mile to actually make all of this stuff interoperable and to upgrade the live network, is that other cryptocurrencies that, like the Tritium protocol, or want to upgrade to the Tau framework, are able to do so, since essentially we are upgrading from a single dimensional blockchain that's UTXO based into the full Tritium, Tau protocol. So Cool. Well, I guess if there are no more questions, uh, we shall end this meeting and we shall upload it to YouTube and make a tweet. Remember the 5th of November, the day Nexus changed the distributed ledger. Yeah. That was Paul's. I was like, Paul, can you come help me find a good rhyme? And he just dropped that line. He's like, I'm not very good at it. I'm like, that's actually pretty good.
Great. Let's go
Thank you.
stick now.
And if anybody of you don't know, the 5th of November is the day that Guy Fawkes went to try to blow up Parliament in order to get rid of the monarchy and the oppressive government. So Guy Fawkes is the guy that the mask everybody wears for Anonymous and the whole Anonymous movement. So the 5th of November is a pretty big cypherpunk day. I mean, before there was even encryption and cypherpunks, there was Guy Fawkes. So it figured to be the perfect day. And they say in the UK, remember the 5th of November. They still talk about it. So now I guess all of us shall remember a little bit more. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We appreciate the time. Yep, Ryan, we will get daily tweets cranked back up. Do we have any ready to go? Not specifically at this very moment, but we shall. That's not going to be too difficult. Me and Jules will handle that. So we'll get some daily tweets cranking up for the next couple weeks. And if you guys have any different suggestions too, feel free to drop in the marketing channel if you have anything that you think would be good for tweets so that we can create kind of more community focus. That's always been a big, I guess, value of us is to include the community as much as possible because it's not possible without all of you. We're all kind of pieces of the same puzzle, as I like to say. So give you guys a pat on the back too. It's been a tough road, but we made it. So thank you, Ryan. Cheers, guys. Shall see you next time.